This is a feel-good total body session designed for your luteal phase. This one falls at the end of the third week in this series, so it's right on the cusp of that transition between the luteal phase and the premenstrual phase. So those last 3 to 5 days and the first 3 to 5 days of each cycle, where we group the premenstrual and menstrual phase together. So if you're already feeling that transition to premenstrual territory, maybe you're starting to see a few symptoms arise, that is okay. You can still use this workout. It's a lower intensity session. We're using lighter weights. This is one that just helps us continue to show up. It's a workout for consistency in this phase. So we're not worried too much about muscle development. We're certainly not focusing on calorie burn here. Our bodies are already burning more calories at the baseline in this phase. So we're toning things down. We're just showing up and maintaining consistency through this time in the cycle. So today we have a complex circuit. So we have 3 different dumbbell complexes that will complete in 3 rounds each. Each one has 4 different exercises and will focus on a specific muscle group in the body. So we start with upper body, then we move to lower body, and then we have some solid core work to finish it out. You'll have 4 exercises back to back with 30-second continuous intervals. So these are shorter intervals. They should be very sustainable. You should feel strong and solid throughout. And we're building that muscular endurance by working them back to back in that complex format. So you'll work all 4 exercises back to back, no rest, and then you'll have a 30-second recovery interval between sets. We'll do each one for 3 rounds. You'll hit all parts of the body. This one should feel very grounding, very well-rounded. It will help you break a sweat, but you won't feel depleted. You won't feel completely exhausted. So I want you to pay extra close attention to the signals from your body. Look for those indications of fatigue or overexertion, whether it be through your heart rate. Maybe you're using a heart rate monitor. We want to stay in that sweet spot around 50 to 70% of your max exertion. But what it feels like in your body is you're getting close to that point where you might be gasping for air, kind of getting just one word out at a time. But then you dial it back. So we want to approach that high intensity threshold and then stay below it. So you're breathing pretty continuously. You're not begging for the recovery intervals at the end. You still have a lot of stamina that you could go for much longer with at this intensity level for today. But we'll keep it short. It's that strength portion is about 23 minutes. When you add your warm up and your cool down, it'll stay under 35 minutes for today. And we have nothing extra. So this one is just the strength work, no finishers, no bonus materials, just that solid strength work. Should be plenty for you in this phase. I've also included a workout preview in the description of the video below. That's a separate video that will guide you through all the mechanics that you need for these different movement patterns. Most of them are pretty fundamental movement patterns, so not a whole lot of modification, but there are a few core movements that you might benefit from having different options available to you so that you can make the adjustments that work for your body. Now, let's get into this workout. Let's get warmed up and ready to go. We're starting with an overhead squat to a lat pull down. So you're going to take a big inhale, reach your arms overhead. We're simply going to step out to the side, squat down, and then as you come together, bring your elbows into your side, squeeze the back. Inhale, step out, exhale, pull. Keep your chest nice and upright. Sit back and down into that chair. You can step a little wider if you need to, but keeping it mostly neutral in that stance. Start to connect with your breath here. Stretch through the shoulders and pull. We've got 10 more seconds here. Maybe start to set a goal for your practice today. Last one. And then we come up, reach the arms up, bring your hands behind your head, neutralize that stance, draw the low belly in. We're going to exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, come through center. Exhale, twist to the other side. Keep your hips forward and come through center. Big breath. And exhale, twist. Just warming up the upper body now, the upper back specifically, allowing it to really articulate and move. Last one. And come back up through center. Here, we're going to squat once again. Come down into your squat. Then step one foot back, hinge, single leg deadlift. Come forward into your prisoner squat. And then step the other leg back, hinge. So nice and easy here. I want you to keep pressing your head into your hands to keep that nice long position in the spine. You should feel the back of the legs waking up, that little bit of stretch here. Last one like this, and then we're coming up into our half kneeling T-spine twist. So half kneeling position, hands behind the head once again. Same thing we did standing, but now in a half kneeling position. So you're going to take your elbow to the opposite knee and come up. You can even get a little bit of that open twist at the top, just really kind of freeing the spine in all directions here. Last few reps here. Then we're going to come down. Your right leg is forward. Bring your left hand to the inside. Lift that back knee so you're in your nice deep lunge. Square the hips and then just circle the arm forward and back. So you reach the fingertips back toward your back foot and come forward. If you want a little deeper stretch, you can take that elbow to the inside edge of your foot. Try not to let the hips twist here, or let them drop down. So we're keeping the lower body nice and stable. Last big breath, and we're coming into downward dog. Step back, settle into your downward dog first. And then as you come forward, bear plank, hover the knees, tap one shoulder and then the other. Back to downward dog. Feel that stretch in the shoulders. Bear plank, tap. Shoulders and hips stay in that same plane the whole way through those taps. And breathe. After this, we're going to step the left foot forward. Get ready. Step that left foot forward. Hands behind the head. We're twisting. Opposite elbow to opposite knee. If you like, you can have, again, that open twist at the top. Just, again, creating freedom in the spine, creating some activation in the legs, waking up the hip flexors here. Looking to get the whole body ready for our practice. Last rep like this, then we're going to come down, bring your right hand to the inside, lift the back knee, circle the arm, back and forward. Again, if you want that deeper stretch in the hip, you're taking the elbow toward the inner edge of your front foot. Keep the legs active and strong, like you're hugging the front heel and the ball mound of the back foot toward each other to create that activation in the pelvic floor. After this, we'll step back into our plank position. You can bring the knees down for a push-up. Elbows come slightly out. Take it back and walk the hands to the feet. All the way up to standing, reach up, and then walk it out to your push-up. Again, you can have the knees up or the knees down. Warming the chest here, waking up the upper body. Let's get one more really good push-up. And we'll come all the way back up to standing. This time, we're going to take the arms overhead, circle the arms forward as you hinge at the hips. Reach and come up. Inhale and exhale. Nice and slow circles here, moving through the full range of motion in those beautiful shoulders. Really allow yourself to move through the entire circle. Last one, big breath in and slow breath out. That is your total body warm-up to get you ready for your strength training. Hopefully you're feeling that little bit of increase in circulation and heat, and now you're ready to get into your workout next. Welcome to your total body session for the luteal phase. So this is kind of our last workout before we transition to that last 3 to 5 days of each cycle. So this is a great one just to keep your blood flowing and kind of transition, step down to the menstrual phase mode. We have 3 different complexes for today. Complex just means we're moving one exercise into the other without dropping or changing the weights or pausing in between. We're doing this with lighter weight, so it should feel very manageable. We want to drop down at least 20 to 30% from where you were in the follicular phase. So I used maybe 15-pound dumbbells for some of these movements in the follicular phase. So I'm going to drop down to 10 pounds. I used 30-pound dumbbells for the lower body movement patterns. I'm going to drop all the way down to 15s for today. I'm in day 21 of my cycle, so kind of already entering that premenstrual territory. So wanting to keep things slow and low. We do have shorter intervals today, which is different than what we normally do in the luteal phase, simply to help us move quickly from one exercise into the other so that we're not approaching fatigue. We are keeping things kind of light and easy throughout this workout. So we'll do 3 rounds of each complex. Again, you're going to be in each exercise for 30 seconds continuous. We will have a 30-second break at the end of each set, and then just that quick 30 seconds to transition from our upper body to lower body and then lower body to our core complex. I will get our timer started. We have 20 seconds to set up. You're going to grab your lighter weights for the upper body complex. We're starting with a bent row. So for the bent row, feet are shoulder width apart. We're going to brace the belly first, roll the shoulders back, keep that chest nice and open, draw the front ribs in. Then we come into our bent position. It's more of just a slight hinge. You don't have to come all the way to the horizontal. Find what's comfortable for you, and then we pull the elbows straight back. If you're working with weights that start to feel a little bit heavy, you could always alternate from one side to the other, one row and then the other, focusing on that core stabilization, keeping the shoulders and the hips nice and even. Otherwise, you are keeping those shoulders relaxed away from the ears and bringing both elbows straight back, squeezing them behind you. After this, we're going to alternate in a cross body curl. 2, 1. You're just going to cross the body, squeeze the bicep, and come back down. So you feel the quickness in these intervals. I don't want it to create urgency. I want you to just feel the kind of different pace, the different intensity that is in these shorter intervals. But we're still working on overall endurance because we're working back to back in this complex format. Crossing the body here, and then we're coming into our L raise. This is one that might be a little bit more challenging with this weight range. So I want you to take your time. Really take it slow. So you're making the shape of an L and then alternating sides. So it's a front raise with a lateral raise side to side. This is one where even if it feels just a little bit heavy, we're only here for 30 seconds. So you can really make the most of that shorter interval. Just make sure you're not swinging the weight, that you stay in control. After this, we take the weight overhead, come into our lat pull. So alternating sides, slowly lower, and then press up. I want you to really take your time on the way down. Feel like you're pulling that weight. Imagine that you were on a machine, a cable machine, pulling that weight down, resisting the dumbbell all the way down and back up. We'll have 30 seconds to rest after this. Keep the front ribs pulling in, shoulders relaxed. 2 and 1. 30 seconds to rest. Roll the shoulders out. Hopefully the weight is light enough that you don't even need to drop it down, but if you need a little posture break, you can take those weights down for a moment. You can circle out the arms, roll out the shoulders, take a few big breaths. Check in with your heart rate. Should be in kind of the lower zones. We're aiming for 50 to 70%, but in this last workout before we shift into the premenstrual phase, we want to be on the low end of that range. Here we go. Bent row, pull it back and release. So now that the weight is light, I want you to really focus on your mechanics. So at the top, can you squeeze the elbows behind you without pinching the shoulder blades? So we want to press the shoulder blades onto the back to expand the chest. This is such a great training mode in the luteal phase. With lighter weight, we can still show up even if we're not having our best energy days. Cross-body curl. That was me this morning, definitely feeling a little bit on the low energy side, that pull inward, but I was still looking forward to this practice because I knew it wasn't going to be too much. I knew I was going to be able to show up, put in the work, and if anything, it would bring me more energy than when I arrived. Always making sure to fuel your workouts in the luteal phase, bookending the start and finish L raise with those high quality sources of protein and carbohydrates, especially if you're working out first thing in the morning. This is just my routine these days with 2 little ones at home. I work out first thing in the morning before everyone in the house wakes up, but I always make time for that protein shake before I work out. The reason being, we're already prone to catabolic metabolism in the luteal phase change. But when you wake up, that's amplified. So you've been fasting overnight, and while it might result in more fat burning short term, so within the session, maybe for a little bit after, your body's being adapted. She'll create these wise adaptations to start storing more fat to supply energy for just these sessions, so these fasted training sessions. All that to say, please fuel before you work out, especially in the mornings. Rest, we have our 30-second recovery interval here. We'll roll the shoulders out. So you can hear in the breath rate, it does change. You're breathing a little bit more quickly, but you're not gasping for air. So we're not anywhere near that high intensity threshold today. You can hear the rhythm of my voice not really interrupted by that effort, that exertion. Let's come into our final round here. Pull it back into your bent row. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. Sometimes I'm told that I talk too much through the videos, and just something that helps me feel connected to you as you're moving through. Let's pull it back. Make sure you're extending the arms all the way at the bottom. Get ready to switch. Pull it back. Let's come up, cross-body curl, alternating sides. So we squeeze and squeeze. Smaller muscle group now, working the biceps. So we are alternating sides. Try not to swing that weight, especially now that it's lighter. I want you to, if anything, slow it down a little bit. Keep more time under tension so that you get more from this lighter weight range. And the more that we can unload slowly or load the pattern slowly, the more we send that anabolic signal, that muscle building signal. And while it's hard to build muscle in the luteal phase, that signal can help us preserve the muscle that we already have. So it can promote balance and help us avoid that dreaded state of muscle wasting if we're working too hard in this phase. We've got one final exercise after this. We'll move and change into one. Take the weight overhead, nice and slow. Pull it down. Lat pull. So we want to feel the back working here. You will feel the shoulders as well in that press, but I want you to focus on the lowering phase. We're going to have a quick transition after this in about 10 or so seconds where we're switching to our heavier weight for our lower body complex. So again, stringing 4 exercises back to back, just 30 seconds each. You can pick up the pace a little, rest if that feels appropriate, and if you can do so without increasing the intensity. We're going to start with a dumbbell deadlift, then we come into a reverse lunge. We'll finish with a suitcase squat and a side lunge. So I'll guide you through. We're going to start with our dumbbells by our sides, kind of in the suitcase hold. We want your feet shoulder width apart. Tilt the dumbbell heads down so that they're aligned with the center of your foot. Roll the shoulders back. Here we go. I want you to bring your heart, belly, chest toward the thighs. Fold the body in half. Keep your spine straight. Down and up, especially the back of the neck here. Make sure it's staying neutral. So the spine isn't really moving except for with the hips. So it's the hips that are creating that flexion and extension. The spine is just along for the ride. After this, reverse lunge. We'll switch right to it. Alternating sides. Come down and up. Nothing flashy today. Just straight strength work that allows you to stay focused. You won't feel overwhelmed with complexity. We'll just keep moving in that steady state from start to finish. We want 90-degree bends in both knees here. Let's change in 3, 2, 1. Suitcase squat now. So we have the same hold in the dumbbells, but it's not a deadlift. We want to keep that chest elevated, like you're lowering 2 suitcases to the ground, sitting back into your chair. So it's the same level of bend in the knees, but you're keeping your chest upright. And rather than tilting the dumbbells and bowing forward, we're just Lowering straight down and straight up. Side lunges next. Step out to the side. Squeeze the legs together. Want those weights to frame the bent foot. So that bent knee, that foot, you frame it with the weights. Again, here, you will have a slight forward lean with this position in the dumbbells, but I want you to keep your chest mostly upright, just side to side. Squeeze to the center as you bring the legs together and rest. That is our first of 3 rounds. That one a little bit higher on the energy demand, so you can check in with your heart rate. Make sure that you're slowing things down if you need to keep that heart rate under control. You could always drop down to your lighter weights as well. I'm going to catch my breath here, lengthening the exhales. That'll slow the heart down. We start at the top of round 2 with our dumbbell deadlift. So again, tilting the weights. This time, you're allowing your torso to bow forward. So it's the difference between the hip hinge and the squat movement pattern. We are bowing forward versus sitting back in the squat. A lot of the mechanics look the same. We're holding the dumbbells in the same way, bending the knees in the same way, but the movement in the hips is what's different. Reverse lunges next. Step it back. One, and then the other. Here, keep your shoulders over the hips the entire time. Lower them nice and straight and come back up. Drive through that front heel. Slow things down if you need to. We're switching to that squat movement pattern in about 5 seconds. Breathe. Let's switch. Suitcase squat. So, sitting into your chair, keeping the chest lifted. So I want you to imagine like you had a book resting on the crown of your head, and you don't want that book to slip forward. So you have to keep that chest lifted, keep the spine straight, lower spine nice and neutral. We're here for 3 more seconds and then side lunge. Let's switch. Step it out. Nice slow lower. Squeeze to the center. So I want you to catch the weight on the way down, slow it down, and then squeeze the legs together. As best as you can, keep that chest lifted. So think of the squat movement pattern in the leg that is bent. And rest. I'm going to set the weights down, just make an adjustment to my mat. You've got about 30 seconds before we finish out this second complex for the lower body. Let's come into position. We have just 1 more round, and then we'll close it out with some core work. Let's get ready. Again, nothing fancy today. We're just working through these 3 dumbbell complexes. No finishers, just solid strength work. Here we go. Down and up. Dumbbell deadlift. Squeeze. Chest reaches forward and comes back up. I want you to feel the power in the hips as you extend. Even if the weight is light, I want you to imagine pushing the floor away as strongly as you can to open up the hips. Last 2. And 1. Reverse lunge. Step it back. Let that back knee hover and power up. So just like in our side lunge, any of these split leg unilateral positions, I want you to feel the hugging to the midline. So even when the legs are in the split position, it's like you're trying to squeeze them together. That generates the strength and stability in the pelvic floor. Last 2. 1. Suitcase squat. Here we go. Straight down and straight up. Continuous 30-second intervals. They don't feel like much from the outset, but we start to accumulate a little bit of heat and, more importantly, the endurance. So we're working on muscular endurance today with that continuous effort for a full 2 minutes. So even though the exercise is changing, the effort is there for that solid 2-minute interval before you have your recovery. So definitely tapping into that endurance mode, our slower burning pathways to accommodate luteal phase physiology. It's where it's at in this second half of the cycle. Last one. Grab one lighter weight here. We're going to come onto the knees for a kneeling dumbbell twist. And then we'll come into a side plank pull. It can be on your forearm or on your hand. You can have the knees down for that side plank, whatever you need to keep it sustainable. And then we'll close it out with a rainbow arc side to side in that kneeling position. So we'll start out with the weight at the chest, vertical position. Let's begin. We press it forward, keep the hips square to the front, rotate. Come back in to the chest. Take it out, rotate, back to center. One of my favorite movements for the rotational range of motion. I want you to squeeze the arms together as they straighten. So you're activating a little bit of the chest and the biceps. After this, straight into your side plank. Get ready for it. Switch. You can have knees up, knees down, or you can be on your hand or your forearm. I want you to stack your shoulders, stack your hips, and we're just pulling that weight toward you and back down. This is an anti-rotation exercise. So we're still working that rotational stability, but we're resisting the rotation. So as the weight comes down, your body will want to twist. We take that out, and that's where the core stability comes in. Kneeling now, take the weight in the horizontal position to one side. Trace a rainbow through the sky, big arc to the other side. We're allowing the upper back to twist slightly, but the hips stay square to the front. I want you to feel a lift through the side waist as you come through that big, beautiful arc all the way up and all the way down. Side plank on the second side, coming up. So again, you can be on your hand or forearm, knees or toes. We're pulling it up and back down. So we're resisting that pull of the top shoulder down. We're resisting the hips twisting. Keep pressing through all points of contact with the floor so that you're lifting the underside waist up, creating that arc shape. Last one. And rest. So we've got our 30 seconds here before we come into round 2. So we'll start with, again, that dumbbell twist in the kneeling position. If the kneeling position is uncomfortable at all, you can always take this standing. I find that the kneeling position takes out some of the tendency to want to twist the hips. It's harder to twist the hips when you have your knees on the ground. But by all means, if you need to, you can take this in a standing position. Weight comes to the chest. Let's begin. Press it out and rotate. Again, shoulders are relaxed away from the ears, as always. And we're keeping the hips fixed. So we're not letting the pelvis rotate with that weight. We're letting the rib cage and the pelvis move independently so that we get the spine unstuck. Get ready to switch to your side plank. I'm going to take this one on the forearm here just to demonstrate lifting up the hips or staying with the knees down. Here, you'll be able to tap the floor and pull. We're using the weight, yes, to get some upper body work here, but also to create more of that anti-rotation stabilization effort. So the weight's going to want to pull that top shoulder down. It's going to want to pull your top hip down, but we have to stabilize with that core strength. Let's switch. Come into your rainbow arc. So weight is at one side, arc up and over. This can be super slow. I want you to feel each part of the movement. And this is one that you may be surprised by. Even with lighter weight, you might feel a little bit of tenderness in the side waist because we are working a full range of motion here and adding that little bit of load for our core work. Side plank, come to the other side. Forearm down for me. You can take it on your hand or on the forearm. If you have your hand down, your hand is slightly forward of the shoulder. If you're in the forearm plank variation, shoulders directly over the elbow. Either way, you're pushing like crazy into the floor and then leveling the hips and shoulders, keeping them in that same plane the entire way through. And rest. We have just one final round left to go. About 2 minutes of work, and we will be ready for our cool down. So stay with me. Might roll out the shoulders here, check in with your heart rate. Should be right in that sweet spot. I tend to be between 120, 140 in the luteal phase. That seems to be right around the appropriate intensity for me. And depending on your age, your fitness level, your cardiovascular health, you might have slightly different ranges. That's why I love working with a heart rate monitor. It takes a little of the guesswork out. I can just aim for those target zones. And I also want you to be aware of your body's cues. Something that also happens in the luteal phase is your exertion might not reflect how it feels. So it might feel much harder than what your heart rate monitor is telling you. So I want you to pay attention to your body first and the technology second. So if your heart rate monitor tells you you're at 50%, but you feel like you're at 80%, it still means you need to slow it down. I want you to pay attention to that perceived exertion first, because it changes in the luteal phase. Things naturally feel harder. Switching to that rainbow arc next. In the luteal phase, we have lots of things that take place. One of them being a decrease in blood plasma volume. It means there's less fluidity in the blood. It's a little bit thicker. So your heart naturally has to work a little bit harder to pump more viscous blood through. So that can make things feel harder. Bodies tend to be more carb sparing, so a little bit more stingy with carbohydrates for fuel. All those things mean that it might feel harder than what the technology is telling you. Last exercise here, side plank pull. You are so close. Keep that solid form, solid mechanics, all the way till the end. Press into the floor, lift the hips high. Last one. And slowly come down. Set your weight off to the side. I want you to take your time, shake out the arms here in your kneeling position first. Then we're going to take our time, bring your hands to the floor. Slowly start to unfold the legs into a forward bend. You can keep the knees with that generous bend. Then bring your forearms to your thighs. Come into a halfway lift. Breathe here. And then slowly, nice and steady, come all the way up to standing. That completes your strength work for today. Let's take a huge breath in together. And sigh it out. Exhale. So this workout, as I mentioned, just the strength work for today. This is our transition to premenstrual territory. So we want to do that intentionally with some thought in the sequencing. So no finishers, nothing extra. The strength work is it. Hopefully it feels like just enough. And now you're ready to cool down. You have just completed your total body workout, and now it is time to cool down. As you're ready, start to step your feet just a little bit wider than hips width. Give a few shimmies and shakes, just side to side here. Then we're going to interlace the fingers behind you. Stretch the arms straight and strong. Feel that opening across the chest. Lift the pubic bone toward the navel. Draw the front ribs in. Big inhale breath here. And then as you exhale, fold forward any amount. Keep the heart at the level of the hips. Few deep breaths. You can create that micro bend in the knees here. Maybe side to side, a little bit of a twist. Release the hands as you're ready. And then we're going to come over the right leg, let the left knee come down into a lizard stretch. Here, slight modification, we're going to take the right hand to the right thigh, press down and forward, and twist the heart open to the right. I want you to keep your hips nice and square. Come onto the top of that back thigh, maybe untuck the toes so you feel the hip flexor stretch and that deep hip opening. If you prefer, you can take the hands to the inside. Just focusing on those deep breaths here. Last 2 and 1. We're going to come up through center into our goddess squat. So heels in, toes out. I want you to take the hands to the inner knees, turn your fingers in or out, and then we're just going to dip the shoulders. So as you dip, pressing the inner knees out, feeling that nice twist in the spine, lengthening the lower back. This is a great release for the lower spine after any strength work, but specifically our total body strength work today. Last 1. Now we'll come over the left leg, right knee comes down. Bring your left hand to your left thigh, press down and forward, twist the heart open, soften the shoulders away from the ears, come onto the top of the back thigh, really allow the hips to soften without collapsing. So we're not dumping weight into the pelvic floor, but we're just relaxing and letting gravity kind of take over here. We'll be here a few more breaths. And then we'll take the left knee back to join the right for puppy pose. Walk the hands out. I like to bring the palms to touch, bring the elbows to the center. Feel that nice deep stretch in the triceps, under the armpits, all the way up the spine. Lift your hip creases up and back. Really working to lengthen the rib cage. And then we'll slowly start to come up. Create a zigzag shape with your legs. So your left leg in front, right leg behind. We're going to fold over that left leg. Take your right arm, thread it under the left. So we get both a hip stretch and an upper body twist. If the twist is too much, you can always take it out. I want you to really feel kind of that deep hip opening, both inner and outer rotation in the hips. And slowly start to lift up. Take your left hand behind you, right arm reaches. You can even come down onto the left forearm. I want you to stretch from the inner back knee all the way up. So arch away from that inner knee. You should really feel some deep hip flexor awakening here. You might even feel as you stretch the psoas, kind of a pull in the lower back. We're just restoring the length to the front body here after that total body work. And come up. Let's switch the position of the legs. So now the right leg in front, the left leg back. We're going to fold over that right leg. You have the option again here to thread the left arm under into an upper body twist. Or again, you're just folding over that right leg. Softening here. Can even be a little bit more upright if it feels like too much to come all the way down. And then slowly lift it up. We're going to turn over that right arm, bring the right forearm down and anchor the inner left knee, that back knee to the floor. Reach your left arm up and away. So I really want you to feel this arc in the spine that lengthens the hip flexor complex. There's a lot of musculature happening there. So we lift up and out and back. Last huge breath here. Then we're going to come up to a simple seated position. You can cross your legs if you wish. Bring your hands to your knees, cat and cow spine. So I want you to lift, soften the shoulders, and then round in, curl the tailbone under, chin to chest. So we're kind of expressing both extremes in the spine. So full extension and then full flexion of the spine, rounding in. Breathe as you open up. And exhale, last one like this. Let's slowly take the feet forward in your own way. Come into a ball pose. So tiny ball pose squat, lift the heels, stretch the feet, and then slowly, bone by bone, we roll all the way up to standing. I want you to enjoy a huge breath in, reach the arms overhead, and exhale, sigh it out. That completes your total body cool down for today. If you have extra time, you can always run through that 5-minute sequence one more time or continue some gentle stretching on your own, whatever you need to kind of reset the nervous system to resolve that stress response from your workout and send you on your way. For now, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today and for letting your body be moved.